Hello and welcome back to the Double and Radio Wrestlecast. As always, another AEW pay-per-view, another Wrestlecast, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host Brett.
Hello.
Brett, we're
Is
here
there
to talk about some Wrestle Dreams and some Wrestle Nightmares.
yes, and there more dreams than nightmares, thankfully. But these are starting to feel hilariously often. It's really weird.
Yes. So Wrestle Nightmares, I'm being facetious. I more mean that we'll talk about the ending. Wrestle Nightmare for Bryan Danielson. Um,
Yeah.
but I think this is like I'm feeling the pay-per-view fatigue a little bit uh, at this point, and we were worried about this last time. I think this one in particular feels weird because like half of the matches don't have a lot riding on them,
Yeah.
and the other
Yeah.
half are
I
so story heavy that it's like very important. Um,
I have a question too that I don't
yeah,
know. Do we know if the because I know the streaming deal has been confirmed. Is it a thing yet? It's not a thing
it
yet,
is not a
right?
thing yet. It is so I believe February of 2025. I think is what I heard.
Okay.
I,
So they
I
cut
might
their
have the
ties with
date on
Bleacher
that
Report.
wrong.
They cut their ties with Bleacher Report. So
So yeah,
old
if you
people
don't
who
have
don't know
cable
how
right
modern
now, there
technology
is just
works.
not a way to
Yeah.
watch these pay-per-views, as far as I'm aware, unless you live somewhere that has Triller. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's weird and kind of
And my
unfortunate.
my my parents were really confused on how to watch it, and because they didn't tell me until after the fact, they didn't watch it.
Yeah, so
So
January
that
2025.
sucked.
So we don't have to go too long without a
Yeah.
way, but it's still weird that they cut the Bleacher Report streams
I know. I
before
know.
this has happened.
It's weird that the shift not to make it about this for too long, but it's
But yeah,
weird
we're
that
skipping the
the
pre-show, so we can use that time for this because this is, I think, a
that's
very
fair.
top of the mind thing for many AEW fans.
Yeah, because it's finally happening, right? And it's good that it's finally happening, but it's weird that it's been in the works for so long, and now that it is finally happening, it's like messily happening. It's like when a huge new like game that's been hyped forever is about to come out, and then like the multiplayer servers get overrun and it's impossible to play for the first like 2 days. It's like what did you think was going to happen? Like how many people were you prepared for? Why did you not prepare for this? What did you think was going to happen? Um, so it's weird that this thing that everybody who cares about it has been clamoring for is finally confirmed, and finally we have the details, and it's just like the least convenient shift over that you can have before it just like deleting your things that you already paid for, which thankfully you'll be able to carry over your pay-per-views that you've bought in the past. I'm pretty sure. I don't know what the process for that is, but I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure they
who
said that you could
knows
do that.
what that'll look like. Um, at least on Triller, you can watch everything that you've purchased easily, so I'm not too worried about that.
Mm,
In terms of like preserving purchases, like I would not mind if I did not get them as long as Triller still had them. Um, at least the old stuff to watch. I don't care if they get the new stuff, but I think this deal is a really big deal, and
yeah.
hopefully everything goes smoothly in January when this actually is in our hands and we can watch AEW stuff on Max. Because making the barrier to entry that much smaller, I think, will be a huge win for
For
AEW in
sure, for
general.
sure.
Because I think like a lot of the wrestling audience right now, at least newer people like me, probably do not have a TV with cable and have no intention of
No,
ever having a TV with cable, um,
no.
which makes it incredibly hard to watch the Wrestle Show uh, through legitimate means. Which I'm very much
Yeah.
hoping that is something that goes smoothly. Because I don't think we know exactly what the pay per view and regular event structure is going to look like on Max, um, in terms of pricing and all that. But I think we expect
Yeah.
probably to keep track with their normal thing. Uh,
Yeah,
though,
they
and
said
that holds $60 pay per views this frequently is a lot. Um,
yeah, I know for sure that they did say that pay-per-views would be discounted for people who are watching on Max. I don't know how discounted, because if it's like $5 off, that's not really going to make that much of a difference.
but if it's
But if
20
it's like,
bucks total, then that's much more achievable, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, then that would be way, 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 way better for everybody. Um, but I don't know. It depends. I don't know how I don't know how WWE does it with Peacock. Um, but yeah. Also, Ryan, when was the last time that you watched an episode of Rampage?
It's been a while.
Yeah,
Rampage.
apparently it might be done soon.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
uh, yeah. Which on the lead up to this, because I due to travel and COVID and a bunch of other things, I wasn't catching up before the pay per view to make sure I knew what the hell was happening was a little all over the place. But it was just really funny to watch Dynamite, the Dynamite before this pay per view,
Yeah.
um, and just have them not mention Rampage at all. Rampage being the thing that happens literally the day before this pay per view schedule because it was a Saturday pay per view. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. And then I skimmed through what was on Rampage and it was like nothing of note happened. It was like, damn, they're really leaving this out to just drown in the middle of the goddamn ocean.
Yeah,
It's very
there was a
strange.
countdown afterwards that they did like the countdown to Wrestledream and whatnot. But
Hmm.
I don't think that stuff is generally that important. It's a good if you don't accurately like if you don't constantly keep up with Dynamite. It's very helpful to kind of know
Yeah.
what in general is going on. But at the same time, like I've been a little spotty on some Dynamite watches in the in between this and I'm blanking on the name of the last pay per view we watched because they keep having more
I
all out.
know. Yeah.
Um, and I don't think I missed much in terms of like having missed the occasional episode here or there. It seems like a lot of this is following the lines from All Out, which makes sense,
Yeah.
granted that they're so close together. Um, Especially after All Out and All In being a week apart or 2 weeks apart, whatever it was.
Hmm.
All right.
Which is still hilarious in retrospect. I don't, whatever.
Let's get into the show proper and talk about our matches here. Because I think there's a lot to go over, and a lot of
Oh
good,
yeah,
and a couple of mixed things for me, but mostly good, I would say. Um,
yeah.
First match, Jay White and Hangman Adam Page. Uh, Two great wrestlers that I'm always very excited to see
Yes.
on screen. I think this was a really good classic match for both of them. I don't think this
Hmm.
went too over the top in any one way for me to say that like this is a top tier match for either, but I think this was totally like them showing their best, right? Uh, really good showing. Nothing that really stood out to me as like the best thing these guys have ever done, but the first match, not the expectation that needs to be set. So
I'm gonna be honest with you. I actually disagree with you in a positive direction.
yeah,
I think this is Jay White's probably just straight up best AW match that he's had so far, if I'm being honest with you.
I can
Because
see it.
I'm someone who like obviously he's got a reputation. He's well respected by people who watch New Japan. He has his followers. He's been around for a while. Uh, but his stuff in AEW it hasn't really been bad. But I find his tournament stuff that he's done in AEW because they were smart to have him in the Continental Classic and I think one of the other mini
Yeah,
tournaments they had as well. Uh, Other like definitely good matches he's had, but I think for me, a lot of the time his style of wrestling, of being like the counter wrestling guy and kind of in order to do that you have to wait for the other guy to do something so that you can trick him into doing something else that benefits you more and then trip him up. uh, I feel like this is the best example of that I have seen within my admittedly terrible memory, but I just remember really, really popping off for this match, um, particularly because of Jay White was focusing on Hangman's leg to, it's part of disarming the buckshot lariat, because if you take his legs out, he
Mhm.
doesn't have a stable footing to land on when he does the completely necessary and not at all superfluous flip over the the top rope.
Yeah, it's that's how
Um,
he charges up. Okay, he's got to charge his
no, no,
super
no.
meter.
I'm 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 a believer. Trust me, I'm a believer. I just know that there are people that aren't believers that need to be brought to the light. Um, but they get on the outside, and the altercation on the outside basically starts with Hangman just like slamming Jay White's entire back of his body on the steel ring steps, which like I'm sure that was as safe as that could have been, as it always is. But my God, did that look
Yeah,
extremely painful, and it was really loud. And
that's the
then Jay
thing.
White just kind
Whenever
of,
that specific one, I think the sound was so
yeah,
impactful because there's a couple
yeah.
more steel step spots in this pay per view. I don't think any of them were quite that loud.
No, no, definitely not. It was really brutal sounding. Um, and then the main thing I wanted to bring up that was definitely the highlight for this match for me at least was kind of the final nail in the coffin holding the Hangman's shins was Jay White brought Hangman into like a knee breaker on the like outside like pointed edge of the stage
Which looked
ramp.
wicked as well. That
Yeah,
was
that like
probably my favorite spot of
that's
the match.
for sure. And like it's because it's a main spot. Like that's the kind of thing. No matter how much, um, is off the cuff in a wrestling match. That's like a spot like that is definitely you
Yeah,
decide that
fully
beforehand to
planned.
practice it and stuff. Like that is like I don't know how I don't know how you take that and not like actually seriously hurt yourself. But clearly, Hangman's like fine. But that like again, it just like crazy that gave me. I mean, I don't need to respect Hangman anymore. He's already one of the best in my eyes for sure. But that really elevated Jay White in my eyes. Just the fact that he would pull something like that and it would actually work. Uh, I don't know, that was crazy, and it crazier too. Um, Jay White's definitely got a little bit of fire under his ass for a good singles run right now because he fucking won, which was pretty based.
Yeah, I was legitimately kind of surprised by that.
I know, me
And
too.
I think maybe that's why I was a little bit lower on this match than you are because I think Jay White has mostly been involved in tag and big team stuff with the like high end of the card.
Hmm.
And this is probably one of the highest profile singles matches he's had in a while. Um,
Definitely.
and I think him winning this, like Jay White does not need a boost in popularity. Like everyone already likes him, so I don't think there's a any issue in that front. But I think it will be very exciting to see where he goes from here. And I would be very
Hmm.
down for a singles run.
For a singles run, and also for uh because I mean, not to harp on Jay White for a lot, but I feel like honestly we haven't really talked about him too much because he's
Because he
just,
kind of flew under the radar for a while. Coming into
yeah, and he's
AEW,
been
he was
injured for a
just
little
a
bit.
part of other things. He was injured for a while. Um, Similar story to a few other AEW acquisitions. But
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I honestly, Hangman is if they want to keep it, if they whether they want to add Jay White to the list of people that Hangman unreasonably despises, or if they want to have like a feud between them. Honestly, I think would be cool, just straight up, because Hangman's uh, really hateable right now in a lovable sort of way, and I think Jay White is kind of the same thing because he's a slimy asshole. But people like that about him because he's really good at it. So,
yeah,
and just the way he kind of like victimizes himself and always makes him the butt of all the horrible things that happen is kind of like a less less dramatic way that Hangman kind of does the same thing. So I could see them playing off each other for longer.
Totally.
I could also see Hangman just getting into a like they already had that bunkhouse match, but just a straight up Hangman versus every single other person that doesn't like him match. It would
I
be
would
really
adore
interesting.
that. I
Yeah,
think I think that's
twisted way.
such a good angle for Hangman right now. Um, but either way, yeah, these two did great. I'm very excited to see where both of them go because I think Heyman's current gimmick has a lot of like legs to stand on.
For sure, for
Because it
sure.
definitely seemed like for like a year or so, uh, Hangman's sort of like the anxious cowboy thing. As much
Mhm.
as I like it and many other people like it, it wasn't giving him storyline opportunities. Uh,
No, certainly not as much as this. And this is a
and
really
this
good
like
turn.
anxious vengeance driven cowboy,
Yeah,
maybe a
yeah,
little bit more. Okay. Any other thoughts on this match before we move on? This was Jay White did win this match.
yeah. And I think the only other thing I have to say is that this is I like we said, he didn't necessarily need it in the eyes of the viewing audience, but in the mystical, magical AEW scoreboards that sometimes appear, he needed a boost to get himself into the title picture. And we don't know who he's going after next. But in a promo later on in the night, that we'll just consider part of this because when else are we going to talk about it?
Yeah,
He's going after more people and kept talking about any time you wear. So it's probably going to be Christian, which is going to be awesome. Um,
perfect.
yeah, anything he does next, very cool.
10 out of 10, no notes. Uh, all right, let's move on to our next match, which is our women's match of the card.
We're back
Coming
down
out
to
early
one.
with it. Mariah May
um,
and Willow Nightingale for the AEW Women's World Championship, held by Mariah May after betraying Tony Storm
mhm.
and sending her to Japan. Um,
Yeah. Oh no, such a terrible punishment.
Such
Oh
a terrible
no.
punishment that she really killed it. I think I think this is a good match. I think Willow always has
Mhm.
a really good energy, and everyone gets very excited to see her, which is very cool. Uh, and Mariah May is a intimidating champion in a good way. I think she's a
Yeah.
stronger personality for a championship than we've had, aside from Tony Storm, who was great as well. We've kind of lacked like a women's champion that has a solid gimmick for a
Yeah.
little while. Like it's kind of been bouncing between like as much as I love Hikaru Shida, she's been a transitional champ like 3 times. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think this is a really solid setup for the match.
Yeah, because these are two. I mean, by this point, they've Willow for sure, especially has kind of emerged as just like one of the people that like, oh, AEW needs something to happen. Willow's just kind of standing there doing nothing right now. Make Willow do it, and Willow
Yep.
do a good job basically no matter what. It's like I want to say last time because oh god, these are starting to happen close enough to each other, Ryan, where I can actually remember some things that I said last time,
Yeah. Uh huh.
which is crazy. I think one of the last times I was like Willow's kind of the mox of the women's division, and that Tony uh, kind of sees her as just like one of the people that can just well, we need something to happen. Willow can do it,
Yeah.
um,
Totally. She's also got
which
a
is
great lariat,
differentiating.
just like Mox.
You know what? Honestly, might be a mixed gender match in the works in the future. I'd pay to see that. Are you kidding me?
Hell yeah.
Um, uh, and Mariah also is just like it's crazy for in the grand scheme of things. She really hasn't been wrestling because she kind of appeared for a while before she really did anything in the ring and was just kind of at uh, Tony Storm's side.
Hmm.
Um, she really has been wrestling with AEW for like relatively long in the grand scheme of things, but she's I mean she's really good. Obviously, she's been wrestling since before she was in AEW, but she like no complaints for either of these people's in-ring skill is basically the short version of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Um,
because
yeah,
this is a weird one to talk about. I think because this was a very standard match.
yeah, no bells and
Not
whistles.
no bells and whistles here. Not a lot of juice in the feud, as to say. So this is one of those matches where there's like a limited amount that I think we can talk about without going into play by play. But overall, really good match. I am enjoying Mariah May's run so far, and I can't wait to see where she goes with this because she does defend against this. I don't think they're gonna randomly give Willow a title without some big build, because everyone
No,
likes
yeah,
Willow.
Willow's the kind of person. Yeah, Willow's the kind of person that needs some kind of story behind it. And on the story behind it thing, I don't think it's a problem yet, but I do think that Mariah's gonna need a feud soon,
Yeah,
not the
for
like
sure.
the 1 week build up and then a match. So they're
It's
not they're not they're not bad, but she's gonna need something more substantial soon.
yes, because that's been a consistent problem with AEW in the past. I wouldn't say it's happened recently with the men's championship, but it has happened with the women's championship a number of times, which is just
Mhm.
nothing. Like feuds don't get built, and the feuds that do exist go wrong. Like a good example, I think, is the Serena Deeb feud a long time ago, where the people just got injured a bunch. Thunder
Mhm.
Rosa as well, where just out of their control, but also not great. Um, and I don't want to see that happen with Mariah May. I hope she actually gets a proper feud leading into the next pay per view.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on our women's match of the night?
Not really, because they kept it short too. This is just under 11 minutes. They got a lot of they trimmed the fat off all these matches for
Yeah,
the
this
most
was a lot
part.
of pretty spot heavy pay per view, all things considered, which
Yeah,
personally I
it's a lot of
enjoy.
talking.
But,
Yeah, I don't mind that either.
hey, moving past our women's match, and Tony, you coward, give us more. Um,
Yeah. It's weird that we're back down to one. I don't know.
yeah, this pay per view felt weird. Because like I think it isn't actually a shorter pay per view. I think it's just that there were four pre show matches, which we've skipped over, and then there
Yeah.
were 13, or not 13, but 13 total matches over the night. Four of which were pre show matches, leaving nine for the main card, and a couple of them were very short.
Yeah.
And there was a
It's a lot of
long
talking.
promo segment in the middle of the pay per view, which we'll cover soon. I believe it was actually, was it
Yeah.
right after this match or after the next match?
I
We'll cover it after this match then, because I don't
yeah.
remember exactly where it was, but
I'm
we
I'm
had
pretty
a
sure it's
long
after
swerve
this
pay per
one.
view. Okay, so our next match, Jack Perry and Katsuyori Shibata. Oh boy, I had fun with this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
uh
think this was very, very fun.
yeah, I don't know. Shibata's just one of those people that just always does it. He has such a personality about him, and I feel like if you're gonna come out and your like gimmick name is the wrestler, then that's like that is like I don't know that's like scary. Like I see that, and I'm the other guy in the ring across from him, and I'm scared. That's the wrestler, and he I don't know. It's his general vibe is probably one of my favorites. And we've already spoken how much Jack Perry's improved in his current state of being really, really good. So we're not going to really probably harp on that too much more because we just be
It's a
kind of
given now. It's turned
beating a
into
dead goat.
we can no longer compliment Kenny Omega because we've said too much. Um,
I know.
Jack Perry is starting to enter that territory. Uh,
Yeah,
I do think this was just a really good like signifier for him.
for sure.
I also the finish to this match is very interesting,
Hmm.
and I legitimately think this was a pay per view where we had a lot of weird finishes for better
Yeah,
and
that's
for
kind of the name of the
worse.
game.
Uh, I don't hate this because I think it keeps
Mhm.
Shibata protected, but I do think it's a little weird because this
Why don't
might
you, why don't
be.
you, why don't you talk about it?
So this is the one where good old Shibata pins himself?
Yeah.
Question mark. I don't. That's the confusing thing with this one because I think every other one there's a much more clear through line of what actually happened. This one just kind of ends.
Yeah,
It just
yeah,
sort of they're,
it's
they're having a
very weird.
rhythm and then it just kind of stops. Um, with Shibata pinning himself, which is
It's
an
just very strange.
interesting mistake for the wrestler to make.
I know.
But, I think aside from that one spot, which this is probably, I think that is the one spot that I'm not so sure about in this pay per view, just because it's weird. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, the rest of this match I think was great, and I think the move that he used to pin himself looked very cool until he pinned
It
himself.
just yeah. Yeah.
Which I have to wonder, like, if that was the intended finish or not. But aside from that, I did very much enjoy this. I think these two have a style that works really well together. Where Shibata is the wrestler,
Definitely.
very classical in his approach, and Jack Perry has become a scrappy sort of bruiser,
Hmm.
and I think that works very well in this type of match. Lots of back and forth. Any other thoughts, Brett?
Um, I feel like we have yet another good uh like personality matchup for Jack Perry. I feel like both of these guys are pretty. Shibata's not necessarily he doesn't have a big personality, but he had like he just acts a type of
He's
way.
got the right
Like I
personality for Perry to go
it's
against.
yeah, yeah. He's got he can act in the ring, which is one of the good things that we've been going on about Jungle Boy doing nowadays is that his in-ring kind of persona is
Very
he
strong.
knows who he is now. Yeah, and so they play off each other very well in that regard as well. And honestly, because of the weird finish, and we are definitely not the only ones to have pointed this out. I don't think. Um, I feel like there's a good chance that they maybe not immediately, but they work out some excuses to run it back
Yeah.
again. Um,
It's just because this is an odd one where this type of finish, I think, doesn't ever really work. It's specifically the you did a weird thing and pinned yourself, except for maybe like in a rolling situation. But this was literally he was just doing a hold and then laid back,
yeah, yeah.
pinned himself. Because there's not another way to put it, and I think that is the only sort of mark on this. Aside from that, very fun match. And afterwards, we get a confrontation with Daniel Garcia, and then a follow up
Hmm.
confrontation with Daniel Garcia and MJF, which I'm very excited for to see MJF back. And I am very glad that they're picking this storyline up
Yes, I'm
immediately
glad to
and not
see
like letting it
Garcia
sit.
back too.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
definitely. But like it's just crazy to me that man is off the air for like a month and like everyone's just like he's going to WWE for sure this time, guys. Garcia's going to WWE. I don't it shows up again and it's like he never left. It's like almost like he was never going to leave.
Yeah.
um but yeah, I'm glad they picked it up too because it was just so they just lent into the drama of it so much that it would just be a shame to kind of have that be like the kind of feud that's picked up every once in a while. Um, and obviously MJF is not the kind of guy you want just sitting around and doing nothing. Uh, and both men are capable of doing really cool shit in the ring, so they
Mhm.
can fight each other 100 more times before I'm bored for all I care. So I'm glad they're doing it.
Yeah, and just like we said with the Perry and Shibata match, I think that these two especially have a personality that works really well with each other.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
granted that that's MJF with anybody, but
Yeah,
Garcia especially plays into this so well that I think you have to give him a lot of credit for working as good as he does with MJF.
for being so
Um,
young too. It's just
yeah,
crazy every
totally.
time I think about it.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed this little segment. Um, End of that, we get Adam Cole returning and throwing himself into
Yeah.
the MJF bubble as well. So I'm interested to see where this
Yes.
goes. I'm glad Adam is back. He's full sprinting, so it seems like he's good to go.
Yeah, didn't trip and fall this time and break his ankle again.
uh, he actually got to run in.
Yeah. He also he shook Garcia's hand. So it
Yeah,
really makes you think because the Undisputed Kingdom right now is I mean one of the undisputable things about them is that they are definitely heels. Um but I don't know. I don't know what the situation with that is because I know like Wardlow was a part of it and he hasn't been on air in forever. And that was Adam Cole's little mini faction he made. And obviously he's been in the shadows for a while until just now.
yeah,
So I don't know. Like this is the kind of thing you almost want to do if you're like a face, but I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do if they
yeah.
want to keep
It
that
kind of
consistent with
seems
what he was
like it
doing or
could be a
not.
face move. Adam Cole's kind of always sitting in this weird tweener box where he's mostly a heel, but occasionally,
Yeah.
because people like him so much, plays face, which I'm okay with him staying in that spot, but I think it would be fun to see him get a proper face run, especially after the way that his sort of run last ended with him getting severely injured. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of potential to use that time where he was gone to build a new narrative out of it. Uh, Also, we should mention that title was on the line in that last match. No title changing hands. It's
Oh,
still in the
true,
hands of
true.
Jack Perry. All right. Our next match, three-way between Ricochet, Will Ospreay, and Konosuke Takeshita. And this is for the AEW International Championship. This was probably my most hyped match beforehand.
Yeah.
Stick these three people in a ring, and I'm
This
sure you're going to get some great things. And we did. So,
this is like I this is like match of the decade. Is what it feels like. Really, I just straight up don't really have anything negative to say at all.
I just do want to like pause for a second on how crazy it is that Ricochet is in AW now.
Yeah,
Because so many people were certain he would be a WWE lifer in the mid card, which was so strange to me because Ricochet's style of wrestling is so cool. But he
yeah.
forever sat in a like squash match mid card for a long, long time in
If he
WWE.
wrestled at all,
If he wrestled at all, because he got moved up from I believe NXT, and NXT he had tons of matches that were like full length matches and was like a really built up. But the perpetual problem with NXT is you have to, if it's a developmental thing, you have to move people into the main show, and when you
mhm,
do, there's a new hierarchy, and that hierarchy means
yeah,
whatever storylines they had just get dropped. With very few exceptions. I think like Asuka is one of the few that worked out really well. But Ricochet did not fare so well in that transition because he was suddenly being a like. It's weird to say that Ricochet is a smaller wrestler, but WWE loves their big beefy men, and comparatively less imposing. So
yeah, yeah,
I think it was a lot of that. But in an environment like this against Will Ospreay and Takeshita, who two of my favorite wrestlers currently, probably in the if we don't consider Kenny Omega because he's not actively wrestling, um, top two, most likely.
yeah, yeah.
So and also we
No
discount
arguments there.
Danielson. Um, I think this was a really, really good match. The way that all three of these people move is fascinating. Seems like
Yeah,
gravity just doesn't work for them the way it does for the rest of us.
I like. I think Nigel said on commentary for this match, he was like, if Pac is known as the man that gravity forgot, which was his little gimmick for a while, Ricochet is the man that gravity never met in the first place,
Yeah.
and that is so true and really really cool also. But yeah, it's just crazy. Every single like thing that Ricochet has done so far is just like how how did he end up in this situation where he was basically not doing anything for so long?
Yeah.
Because it's clear he hasn't lost a step. And I don't know, you just put somebody who's
It's
that
also weird
capable
because
of
Ricochet is like a veteran wrestler at this point. He is not.
yeah, yeah,
He's nowhere near being like aged out of wrestling, but he's on the upper end of the middle. I would say for most people, he's in his late 30s,
yeah.
which is for the way that he wrestles crazy. Uh,
It is really crazy.
and
Um,
he has never lost a step. And it's not like he wrestles matches that aren't like this. This is just what he does every time.
yeah,
It just
yeah.
works.
I don't know how much younger, but Osprey and Takeshita are a good amount younger than late 30s. I would think, especially Takeshita.
Yeah,
Um,
Osprey's early 30s, 31, and I believe Takeshita's still in his 20s. Not yeah,
I think
29.
so, which is that
So
is that is insane.
yeah,
um,
crazy pace. There's one point in this match. Normally, I am a huge detractor of the tag team. I'm gonna jump over the edge of the ring, and the other team is gonna catch me thing.
mhm.
Generally, I think it just looks silly. There's very few times that I think it's been pulled off and looked good, except for Darby Allin, who manages to do it perfectly every time. But
Yeah, yeah.
in this match, there is a point where Takeshita's outside of the ring. Ricochet runs, does a handstand, and then backflips onto him, and then Osprey does the same thing,
Yeah, yeah,
running
because
up,
he
and
he
it's almost
catches
like played for
Ricochet.
comedy for a minute, and I think it's
I
perfect.
know.
That is the way to do that, because it's like so superfluous and so silly, but also
Yeah,
really, really like impressive. Um, and I think that worked really well.
yeah. It is. I don't know. It's clear that like any of these three people can make any other person that they're opposite of like they all have the Kenny Omega effect where they can make
Yep.
like a 12-year-old girl look like a pro, like Kenny did that one time. Uh, which is a really, really, really funny and awesome video. If you're listening right
Yes.
now and
Yes.
haven't seen that before, um,
Absolutely recommend seeing it.
you
Um,
must. That is why Kenny's the best. And that's like watching wrestling. It's like, oh my god, they're doing all these
And
crazy
I just
things
want
to
to put
each
this in your
other,
head, Brett, that we have the potential to get a Ricochet and Kenny match. Can
dude.
you imagine?
I that's I like I don't know. The roof would explode off the stadium that they're that they have that match for.
Um,
We could just have this exact same match and just add Kenny into it.
Even
Is that
crazier.
crazy?
Perfect.
Isn't that stupid that can happen?
Yeah.
But
Uh, I do
all
think
these
another thing these
people,
guys are really good at is three-way, really, really important in a three-way match to have the moments when all three people are in the ring work well, which is
yeah, yeah,
hard. And there are so many sequences in this of them like countering from all three of each other. Where like Osprey grabs Ricochet, Ricochet then kicks off of Takeshita and does a backflip while being in Osprey's arms, like all this crazy stuff that looks so smooth comparatively. And I'm sure like with the degree of how often it was happening, I don't think they could have planned everything. So it just
no,
seems
yeah,
like they're all that smooth.
I think they are just all that good because it would be like it would be so easy to just have one of them be like standing around for just a few seconds, like waiting for a move to hit. But no, they're really just like it's like the most
Constant motion.
masterful fight choreography ever. It's insane. Um,
Yeah, I'll also
there's
say
a
I'm really glad that this match is as good as it is for not having anything crazy. Because AEW's been leading a lot on death matches and more intense like steel cages and stuff, which I love. I'm very much a fan of that type of wrestling. But for people that aren't or are more averse to the like blood and guts angles that they
Yeah,
tend to
yeah.
pursue, this is a great example of just a match that is like amazingly good wrestling. Um,
Definitely, yeah. I feel like they like kind of the most interesting matches that AEW tends to have are the ones where they're like, yeah, it's a normal match, trios, so it's like no holds barred. Ref can't stop you from pulling out a table or a chair or something. Like that is all like okay, that is the perfect like I am someone I get a little bloodthirsty sometimes, but also I like I agree with you that at the same time you need to prove that you are capable of putting on a good match. Without that,
yeah,
a good dramatic, painful looking match. Without that, and yeah, you are 100% right that this is a really good example of that. And I think the best example of that straight up is just like the most satisfying table spot for the last little bit
yes,
where Takeshita just like just effectively murders Ricochet by
perfect.
doing.
And I want to bring up what happens right before this spot because they're all on the
Yeah, yeah.
apron, and the best way that I can describe this segment is it looks like I'm watching a fighting game.
Seriously, yeah,
they're
that is
they are
perfect.
moving as if they are professional fighting game player being
Because they
controlled by
can't fall
professional
off the
fighting game
apron.
players. And then when they're off the apron, they've lost. That's them being
Yeah.
KO'd. And it's so entertaining, especially when like Takeshita gets pushed off for a second, comes back out of frame, and just immediately knees or elbow fists Ricochet in the back. It's
Hmm.
great. Then Osprey uses Ricochet as a launch pad to jump onto Takeshita. Very very fun, and just such smooth wrestling overall.
Yeah, I don't think there was a single even like I'd like it's something you could even misconstrue as a mistake. I feel like this is one of the smoothest ones that AEW's put on. And in a pay per view where the theme we mentioned is weird endings, I feel like this one uh, is not as evil and cruel as it is. I feel like it, at least for me, it goes over pretty well
Yeah, no, I
because
think this is a very good ending to the match.
I've
Um, yeah,
I've been sitting with bated breath for them to give Takeshita a belt because the man deserves it more than a lot of people because
yeah.
he
I
is
mean,
so goddamn good.
Takeshita is like he's a veteran of DDT, which is a comedy wrestling group
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Japan, which is hilarious. A lot of their stuff's on YouTube, and like great thing you can find a video of Takeshita teaching someone who's never wrestled before how to wrestle when he's the DDT champion, and he's so funny. From that to
Amazing.
this is such a wild uh, video. I think it's so cool. I think Takeshita is like if we're looking at the next generation Kenny, I think Takeshita is that. Like he is so
Yeah,
smooth. He's
100%.
got the build for it. He looks like a classical wrestler, but moves like a high flyer, which I think
Yeah.
is very very good. Yeah, he's incredibly smooth, and he plays both heel and face really well, which I think is a very good skill to have. Um, and Takeshita wins and takes the international championship home after Kyle Fletcher betrays Will Ospreay. Brett,
I know.
the crushing betrayal.
Crushing betrayal. Can't say I didn't really see it coming, but I don't really care because Kyle Fletcher's another person who's just a fucking beast. So anything he does, I'm in for it.
Yep.
That feud is going to be really, really good.
I'm just imagining. I want to get. I don't know what conceit would make this happen. I want a triple threat with Kyle Fletcher, Takeshita, and Osprey,
Oh my
and
God.
I want it to happen. I don't think there's any way for that to make sense with the current feud,
No,
but
not really.
maybe we'll get Osprey and Ricochet teaming up against them, and then we'll get close with a four way
Oh,
or
that would be so
yeah, two man
good,
tag.
dude.
I'd be so in for that.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I think there's so many cool things they can do with the storyline. Uh, Callus calling Takeshita the Alpha really sets the the tone, I think, for
Yeah.
what this is gonna look like.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm super excited to see where they go from here. Uh, any other thoughts on this match?
Uh, I mean, I'm probably gonna do this, so that's why I'm saying it is one. But this is definitely another wrestling match where you can take that one friend who's like almost interested in wrestling, and then show them this, and then they will become interested in wrestling, because it's just so crazy. So
Yep.
do that. Definitely do that.
All right. Our next thing is the promo segment with Swerve,
Yeah,
Prince
yeah.
Nana, and MVP and Shelton Benjamin, which I think was a little fun, if a little long. Um,
Yeah.
a little long-winded in a couple of ways in the middle, but fun promo. I think it's setting up a fun feud with Swerve and the MVP gang, which I am.
I was I was I was sitting here waiting with bated breath for Bobby Lashley to show up that whole entire
Yeah,
time.
I
I'm
was
not
like,
gonna
is it
lie,
gonna happen?
and it didn't.
Because that
Which is
rumor's been around for
fine.
ages.
I know, I know.
And I would be surprised if it didn't happen, but it felt like this would have been a good spot for it. Maybe they're gonna wait and do like a reveal, either the next pay per view or on a Dynamite in between.
Maybe, maybe.
But yeah, I think this is a fun
But
thing. I think Swerve setting up the whole angle of Nana being kind of a bastard, but also his family is really fun. After the whole Hangman feud,
yeah,
I think it makes a lot of sense. Um,
yeah. The reassurance that he and Nana are sticking together for at least the foreseeable future is good, because I've really like that is just a complete package
I
right
got a
there,
little
right
worried for a
now.
second in the middle of this, where I
Yeah,
was
I
like, "What is
know.
Nana gonna do? What's gonna happen to him?"
Yeah, because he was really ripping into him for a little bit there before he
Really
said he was
tearing him a
family.
new one.
I know.
But it was fun. Everyone had a good time, and I hope this feud turns out really fun because I think it will from the vibe of this promo.
Definitely.
All right, any other thoughts on the promo before we move into our lucha match?
Uh, no, I want to talk about hologram.
Okay, great. Let's talk about Hologram because the next match is Hologram and the Beast Mortos in a 2 out of 3 falls match. This was really fun.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I feel like I'm saying that a lot this pay per view, but that's kind of what happens. And speaking of people that gravity ignores,
Here's just straight up two more of them. Honestly, I know
yeah,
holograms kind of more build like the flippy zappy high flying guy, but I Mortos is like another one of like the Brian Cage Takeshita breed, where he's just like a big dude, and then just like you'll blink and he'll just like be in
suddenly be in the
midair.
air. Yeah,
It's just insane. It's insane.
while also wrestling in
Both
a
of these
full bull
guys.
mask, which is great.
Yes, yes, full bull man, like like huge hairy boots with little like hooves on the like, and just to have a costume like that and do such crazy physical shit and have nothing ever fall off. I They don't have costumes that good in like
I don't know how
Hollywood,
he
dude.
got
Like
kicked on the
what?
head multiple times and nothing broke off of
Yeah,
that mask. like,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
um, and yeah, I think this is a really fun style of match. Hologram's been really impressive the whole time he's been in
Oh
AEW.
yeah,
And this is his first, like, I think this is his first pay per view appearance.
pretty sure.
Yeah, and very good job here. I think this is really fun. I'm glad to get like the 2 out of 3 falls gimmick in because I think that's one we don't see very often. And using it on
Yeah,
kind of like a this is one of those matches that doesn't have a ton of build in it. It's not like a multi-month storyline is building between Beast Mortos and Hologram, but I think it turned out in a really fun showmanship wrestling match.
oh definitely, yeah. I kept talking about it beforehand, but like, because like you said, usually 2 out of 3 falls is kind of reserved for like almost towards like the end or like breaking point of a feud, where it's like we're running out of ways to possibly resolve this. We need you to hurt each other for longer and more than a normal match. But just had like the reason these two are doing that without all that buildup is because that's just how they just do it in CMLL a lot more often than this,
Yeah.
which I think Excalibur brings up offhanded once. But still, even knowing that the whole entire time, I'm just like, this is really funny to see like two guys who don't really even hate each other like that much at all yet, just like go right to this. Like not like funny
I
as in
love it.
like,
I'm like super
yeah, no,
into this.
I totally
I
love
hope they
it.
keep doing it.
I agree.
Um,
Um, because it's really good. And I think they did exactly what it had to, because this isn't one of those crazy ending matches. This didn't have to be like a 35-minute, tear down the house, incredible, most amazing thing you've ever seen. Though it does get close at parts. This is like just a healthy, not even 17 minutes. And they go through the three rounds pretty fast, and they just, I don't know, they just keep up the momentum the whole time. They keep defying gravity, just like altering trajectories in midair and shit, like every other move.
there's one specific thing
I
where
don't know.
Mortos like hologram is running at him. Mortos pops hologram into the air and then grabs him and backdrops him
Yes,
out
dude.
of the air, and I'm like, that is so crazy to pull off in that time frame. Uh,
Yeah.
it just looks so good. And this again, I typically am not a fan of the I'm gonna run out of the ring through the ropes at you things. I think it just tends to look pretty silly. These two make it look like they're firing out of cannons
Yeah.
when
They
they're
listen,
doing it.
they come from the part of the wrestling culture that probably put that move on the map. And
Yes,
by God, do they do it really, really well. Um, and correct me if I'm wrong and accidentally fusing this in my brain with other happenings, but um, the hologram manages to take the best of the two out of the
yep.
three falls. And is this a dynamite and collision thing, or did the rest of uh the Roosh and friends come out to beat the crap out
They
of hologram
cut to
after the fact?
them, I think.
Okay, okay.
Um, there was a little bit of Rushin in the gang, but yeah, I don't think it actually happened at the end of the match. I think they were cutting to them watching on the sidelines while this was
Mm-hmm.
going on. So hopefully this builds into a cool feud because I think Hologram absolutely is good enough to deserve that. And
For sure,
especially
yeah.
with Roosh and the gang, oh boy, those would be some matches.
Being led by Jake the Snake too, which is really funny.
Get him in the
I don't
ring.
know if you. He's it just kind of offhandedly, they just did it really fast, but he traded Lance. Lance is in the Don Callis family now, and now Jake the Snake is running um uh Roosh's little mini stint of I think they're calling it Los Ingobernables, but
Yeah, they're calling it
I could be
Los
wrong.
Ingobernables. Um,
Yeah, so quite the faction.
very excited to see where this goes. And yeah, this is again one of those matches. I think you can show people that don't know what wrestling is and be like, "This is great,"
Definitely.
because it's short, it's fast, and very very entertaining.
Yeah.
All right, move on to our next match, which is Darby Allin and Brody King.
This is that's spoiler, another good one. Um this is a I think one of the more underrated feuds that has kind
Yeah,
of been going for the past couple years in AEW. I want to say like these two first, because they had wrestled. I want to say just a complete crap load on the indie circuits, where the usual thing where Darby just gets the absolute crap beaten out of him by bigger man. Um, uh, but I think in AEW they first met in like a battle royale. Um, and Brody did the by now. I feel like it's pretty iconic imagery of just like choking Darby out by holding him over the edge of the ring apron with just by his throat.
yeah.
Um, And that's a pretty good way to start a long time feud. And this feels like a culmination of that,
This is like a really
um,
classic David and Goliath setup, and the
which
two of
Darby's
them
really good at.
work so well together that
Yeah.
it is even more impressive. Like there's a sequence right at the start where they're outside of the ring. Darby gets thrown over the stairs, lands on his feet, turns around, runs up them, jumps off, and then gets punched in the
Yes.
face.
Yeah.
And it's so entertaining. And then Brody doing the simple thing of like he steps up the stairs afterwards after pinning Darby under them. That's brutal. That's a
Yeah, dude, that is another thing with the like the shin spot on Hangman's leg earlier on. I don't know
yeah.
how you do that and not actually have it hurt like hell because that looks super super painful. And honestly, knowing Darby, it probably
It probably
does. He's
was.
probably he might just be taking it. I wouldn't really be surprised if he was just
Well,
taking
because
the
like,
full
even if
force
it's
of
light,
that.
that's still just a lot of pressure. Like Brody is not
Yeah,
a
yeah,
small man. In fact, he's quite the opposite.
yeah.
So yeah, I think these two work really well. The only thing of this dynamic that I don't love is Darby repeatedly relying on the coffin drop against Brody, because I think
Mhm.
something with Brody's build just makes it not look as good. Because when he coffin drops against him, Brody just kind of doesn't move. And I
Yeah,
think it's because he just has like a muscly back and it doesn't react because of
the
the
way that you would want. Yeah.
the difference here. And I only notice it here because they do it twice and it's noticeable as the finish. So,
Mhm.
but otherwise, I think these two work really well together. And Brody's ability to just throw Darby like nothing is great.
Yeah. I Yeah, and I feel like that's just like again by now they've met in the ring so many times that Darby probably trusts Brody even more than the average guy that Darby goes up against to just like throw him just within an inch of actually killing him to have the match keep going without a hitch.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and I just like just the classic Darby dynamic of like I will like I'm gonna get absolutely destroyed. But I'm just gonna keep getting up until the other guy gets too tired to keep dealing with me, and then the match will be over.
yeah,
It's always fun to see, um, and I feel like this is the culmination of the feud, um, because at the end, when
yeah. Very short and sweet.
Darby, yes, Darby does manage to get the dub here, which is pretty awesome.
Encouraging
Um,
because he's not gotten a ton of them in pay per views lately.
No, no, no. He definitely needed this. Um, and afterwards, he and Brody have a little wordless handshake at the end,
Which
and then
I'm a big mark
part
for that.
ways.
I think it's very fun.
Oh yeah,
Uh, and yeah, now I'm imagining a tag team match where they're on the same team and they attack by having Brody throw Darby. I think that'd be great.
oh dude, total. I feel like in a House of Black semi-face run, uh, where Darby somehow ends up on their side, I'd like that. Yeah, that does need to happen at some point in the near future. I feel like maybe it will,
Yeah,
considering things they may or may not be building to, which is another reason that I think this match needed to happen is because again, Darby doesn't really need like the crowd to be any more behind him than he already is in his home like state, a couple miles away from his home city. Um, but he like you said, he's lost a couple of important matches lately, and he just he needs to overcome something big uh sooner than those big failures, so that he looks like a more powerful boy, and he
yeah.
does now, which
It
is
also just
good.
gets a storyline because he's not really had one aside from the Brody
Yeah.
feud for a while. All right. Any other thoughts on Darby and Brody King? Overall, great match for a very like small runtime comparatively. This was only a
I was
12
gonna
minute long
say, yeah.
match. Um, really good though. All right. Moving on, our next match, Private Party versus the Young Bucks for the Tag Team Championship. Uh, this was pretty fun, I thought. I think
Oh yeah.
Private Party actually got like a bigger build here than I think they've gotten in a long time.
I
Uh,
yeah,
they got like a proper video package, and I think that
and
it
dude,
built to making them seem a little bit more serious than they normally do. I do wonder if they have to drop the name Private Party at some point.
I I feel like there's gotta be some tightrope walking. I feel like you can't get rid of it entirely because it's been 5 years that
Yeah.
they've been doing that, and that's kind of just what they are. Um, but I know what you mean. Where uh, gotta they made a big point of lessening the silliness and kind of getting more serious, and
Yeah.
it almost paid off. This is like probably the worst case of AEW having some pretty good talent with pretty high potential for literally the entirety of their existence and just doing basically not a single thing with them because they've been a part of some feuds that ended up not going anywhere
They were part of
uh, and
good
just
old the oh man, Hardy Party, whatever
Hardy
that
family, The
was,
Office,
for a little
yeah.
while.
um
That went nowhere.
yeah, just a bunch of unfortunate stuff that didn't work out for them. And I don't know. It's about time. This felt like it was a really long time coming because they kept bringing it up over and over and over again. The first time we fought in AEW, Private Party actually did beat the Young Bucks fair and square.
Yeah.
Uh, so I don't know. This, especially with some skeevy stuff that happened towards the end to ensure the Young Bucks winning. I don't know. I'm really on Private Party's side right now, because Young Bucks are absolutely in their element, being really annoying, evil, stupid heels. I hope I wouldn't really mind a back and forth with this, honestly, because they've done so many, like a million different back and forths with like FTR and the Acclaimed. This just feels very fresh, which really sucks to say again for a team that's been with AEW for the entirety of their existence. They just have not been in the title picture ever. Um, I don't know. Do it again, and I think that Private Party should maybe win next time.
Yeah.
I
Running
really
back,
wouldn't mind a back and forth. Yeah.
especially if it's in a steel cage.
Honestly, that would be sick.
I think that'd be very fun. Get the interference limited. Um, yeah, I think this is a really good showing for Private Party because we haven't seen them in a high profile match in a little while. Uh, the wrestling here was a lot better than I think we tend to see from the sort of like what we would say mid carders called up to be in a Bucks match. Uh,
Yeah,
these
definitely.
guys were felt like they were on the Bucks level for a lot of it, which is
Yeah.
very
And
good.
I think also not only in terms of skill, but also in terms of style. I feel
Yes.
like it just feels like such a crazy, like just weird decision that this didn't happen sooner. Because both teams have such like fun, for lack of a better word, styles where they're just like constantly not like necessarily doing like lucha high flying stuff, but just like stuff on the ropes and just flipping over each other's bodies and stuff and just like they both come from the same like style pool of wrestling, if that makes sense. Or they're both very inspired to do similar things. Um, and they just bounce off each other really, really well with a bunch of really similar moves, a bunch of the same moves done back to back.
Yeah.
Kind of just like as in we could do this better than you literally just did. Um, and they both can actually do them, so it didn't come off as forced. It came off as
Hmm.
intended, as really cool. Um,
Yeah,
So yeah, I don't
Private
know. I
Party super
do.
kicking people I think was very fun.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I also think the move to just Zay and Quinn being the names instead of saying the full Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn every time they come out
Yeah,
helps.
yeah,
Uh, they actually have wrestling names now,
yeah.
so I think that
Definitely feels
helps kind
like
of
it.
differentiate from the old Private Party to the new.
Hmm.
Of course, they do lose this match because of some Bucks shenaniganry.
As always, as expected, I would say.
Yeah, I'd be disappointed if there wasn't some. Uh, and I do hope this gets a rerun, or at least they get more matches, because I think this
Yeah,
was
at
a
the
really
very
really good
least.
showing, and I want to see some more matches here. Like I would love to see them go up against Rush and Gang, because I think at one point they focus on Rush in the audience. I don't know if that Rush in the audience. I don't know if that means anything for this,
Hmm.
or if that was just a cutaway to point to them watching High Flyers. But I would be interested if that goes anywhere.
Yeah, because they kind of need something to do as well. So
Yeah.
I would not be opposed.
All right, Brett. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you ready to enter the Jericho vortex?
So listen, we had we're still in that really interesting place in AEW where we had our one. It may just be one, our one women's match way earlier in the card, but it was a pretty solid match, and it was way earlier in the card because this is the bathroom match. And it's now just become that if it's Jericho match, it's a bathroom match, and it's actually become such a I would just consider it completely undeniable because it's not even like I don't even consciously decide it anymore. It's my body that decides. So I didn't
You
have a
just see
choice.
Jericho and you're like, it's
Um,
time.
it's like, yep, it's time to go. And you know what? It's starting to get to the point that he looks like he's got to go too. But this
That's
is
hard.
from what I from what I did from what I did see in this match. Uh, I don't know. It's on the better side of what you can expect from current
Yeah, I'll
Jericho.
say Briscoe's
Um,
style works better with Jericho than I think a lot of the
definitely,
matches that we've seen recently with him.
definitely,
That
because
said,
he doesn't.
I think
Yeah.
this still stands out compared to the rest of the matches on this card, which were generally pretty exceptional. And both is kind of a weak feud and just in general less fun than the other matches. I do
Yeah,
think this is on the higher end of the Jericho spectrum for recent
I
matches,
agree,
but I think a lot of that
but
is
it's
just
like,
due to like Briscoe's style and Jericho's style being a lot more compatible than when Jericho tries to like fight a high
yeah,
flyer and other things like that. I'll also
yeah,
say Jericho
yeah,
gets a couple of good top rope moves off in this one, which he hasn't been doing in a
I
lot
was
of recent matches.
surprised.
But he went for him this time, and they generally worked.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird also to be Jericho in just the current avoiding the consequences of your actions climate that he's in.
Yeah,
And like obviously I mean there everybody there is a professional and it was aired on live television, so no matter how real it sounds, they probably got approved beforehand. But still, it just feels weird listening to him just like bring Mark Briscoe into it, or the I don't know. I don't know. It's just very strange. It's
yeah.
just very Jay Briscoe. Oh my God, sorry. Uh, into it because I don't know. It's again Mark Briscoe probably was definitely like, yeah, you can use
Almost
my
definitely
dead
okay to
brother.
still
Yeah,
feels a
for
little
sure.
bit icky, like with any time that happens.
Yeah, because I don't know. It's
Because
it's just
like the closest
strange.
thing in the past is MJF calling on people's dead parents, specifically Jungle
Yeah.
Boys, and that was like a big deal when it happened, even though that was pretty far separated time wise. Like It was a much bigger amount of time in between
Yeah.
the passing of Jack Perry's father and the mention of that on the show compared to Jay Briscoe. And yeah, like I'm sure it was okayed by Mark, but it definitely is a weird thing to use as an angle.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Well,
Apparently,
happy note. Mark Briscoe takes this one and keeps his
oh
ROH
yeah,
title.
yeah. That's the important thing. Let us harp on it for no longer. Hopefully, hopefully that means it's the end, but I don't know. You know how these things go. In Jericho Vortex, there is
Gonna
no
keep
end.
vortexing. I'm just on the position like I enjoy Jericho's stage presence, but I think he needs to be a manager. Like he needs to be a Don Callis at this point,
Yeah,
and not
yeah,
a wrestler because he just I think it is very rare that he looks impressive in a match, and that is almost definitely down to just Jericho has not kept his physique in condition like Christian has because I think they're around a similar age.
yeah.
Um, it just is very visible for Jericho that he's not operating at the height of his ability right now.
Yeah, you're in the same company as Jeff Jarrett, dude. Like, come on, read the room. If you, I don't know, because Jeff Jarrett is, I want to say, like at the very youngest, late 50s. I want to say he's in his early 60s. I want to say he's about Sting's age right now. And Jeff Jarrett continues to look legitimately like impressive. Like he doesn't do crazy stuff, but like I don't know, he has a physique that I think would fool people that don't
Yeah,
know
he's
how
four
old
years
he
older than
actually is.
Jericho. Um,
Yeah, there you go. And he looks way
yeah,
better.
I think Jarrett just moves in the snappy way that you need to move as a wrestler. And Jericho at this point, there is a sluggishness to most of his uh, like combo things that he'll do. He tends to
Yeah.
lag a little bit in between movements, and I think it's just very visible. Granted, he did have some impressive moves here, like the top rope thing worked really well, and did not feel sluggish at all. So maybe he just needs
Yeah.
to train that up a little bit. But yeah, I would think he would do really well in a manager position at this point.
I agree with that.
All right, Brett, are you ready to escape the Jericho vortex and talk about the big one?
Boy, am I ever.
Because oh boy, we got a big one.
A very big one.
Bryan Danielson defending against John Moxley. And at this point, everyone knows disaster has struck. this
Yeah, yeah, there's no
is
hiding it anymore.
this Danielson's final match as a. To be fair, I am very glad that they specified this as his full time retirement. So I
Yes,
think
yeah.
the odds of us getting Danielson matches in the future are very likely. Um, just I would guess more spread apart, and he probably needs surgery. I think has been said multiple times of like it seems
Yeah,
like he
neck
has a
surgery.
Kenny level injury that needs to be taken care of. And it seems like that will likely take him out for a bit. So I'm expecting that is going to be like what ends up happening after this is we're going to get a Danielson uh, break for a while, and then he'll probably show up in various promotions. I would guess.
Probably, yeah. For
Um,
for just like the hype matches until the
yes,
the actual end of his career.
I'm betting there's one more Kenny match in him. Once
I
they're
yeah,
both
they yeah.
good to go, they got to rerun that. Uh, I also think I've been really enjoying. I think as most people have the Moxley angle that's been happening as uh, Marks Moxley has drank the Kool Aid and become Dark Moxley. Uh,
Yeah,
he is no longer the shiny prince that he was, and is now the murder man. Uh, and I think it's working really well. I think everyone is really behind Moxley's angle here. I think the BCC dissolving and becoming whatever this is has been really good. And Marina Shafir being pulled in and doing really good is also a surprise to me, but it's working really well. So
yeah, that still is the most surprising thing for this whole entire angle is that I've like my brain has been like hardwired to just be like ugh every time that Marina Shafir comes out because she's been ugh for so long, but she's not anymore. She's legitimately like she hasn't had like a match, but like very convincingly is just beating the shit out of people on the at the backstage and just on the side of the ring and stuff. So I'm in. I'm back
Looking like
in. I
Moxley's
wasn't in for
attack
a very
dog.
long time.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very impressive,
Um,
I think, compared to the last matches that she wrestled. I think she's looking much, much more intimidating, and has a really good character at the moment. And hoping they actually get to
yeah,
do some
this
cool stuff with this down the line. The final countdown, Brett.
the final countdown, which did play almost in full, which surprises me every time. But I guess that deal actually did end up going through, which is good. And I don't know, this match was I mean, not a surprise to anybody. The longest one on the card, as I don't think anybody would have it any other way.
Yeah,
Um,
technically under half an hour, but with all the stuff around it, probably took closer to 45 minutes.
yeah, definitely. Um, and it was pretty good. I mean, neither of these guys, newsflash, are bad at all. So, I mean, you got a 27 minutes of I don't know, like moves just working. Mox's kind of switch up in his style a little bit
Yeah,
is is just good. I kind of like it. Not that Mox's style before was like boring or anything, but I just think his switch up to more of that like brawler bruiser move set um is just more interesting straight up.
yeah, I
Uh
think it's working really well.
yeah. And Danielson, I like yeah, like nobody needs to say that he does good because he's one of the best to ever do it, and he still is hiding the need for surgery pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah.
um,
Assuming we're not being kayfabed into oblivion, there's always that line where Danielson does legitimately
yeah,
like to push kayfabe really hard. Uh, so there is a like question mark of we don't know actually how injured he is. We know there is injury, um, but whether or not it's as bad as he has been playing it up, uh,
mm,
I think remains to be seen. But it definitely builds the tension going into this match. Because we all know Moxley's not gonna shy away from doing some things that could permanently end a career. Uh,
for sure.
and like these guys immediately end up getting out of the ring very, very quickly into this match and fighting on top of announcers' tables and everything. Uh, just making this very, very brutal.
Now, now Ryan, here's where I start to get annoying.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm of the opinion that this could have been a great deal more brutal. Uh, because I mean,
I'm
like you pointed
going
out,
to agree with you
Mox.
because
Okay,
I think this was actually, in terms of Moxley, until the very, very end, post the match, not a lot of things that Mox has been doing lately make an appearance here, which kind of makes sense in terms of like this being a straight wrestling match, but the story that they've been building, I think, fits itself more if they do get a little bit more brutal here. Um,
yeah.
like Mox has been known to pull things out from under the ring before. He's done lots of things like that, and I was kind of surprised that we didn't really get any moments of that here.
Yeah, I'm
And
fully
Danielson's
surprised that
worn a crimson mask a couple of times, and we did not get one with
I
this match.
that's what I was gonna say. I'm so almost appalled that there was no blood for this match. Uh, because I think this would have been the match to do it. I don't think there was any. I want to say there wasn't any this whole show, which on paper is fine, right? But I think this like and people make fun of Mox for just bleeding every match. This is one where I think it would have been welcome. I think it
Yeah, if there's a
it was
time to do it,
borderline
this
necessary.
fits.
Yeah, because I mean, I was, you know, not to not to shit on Jack Perry because, like we said, he's in a really good spot right now. But it's just really kind of cosmically funny that Danielson bled way more for him and way more for Swerve than for John fucking Moxley. I just don't understand. I mine and my roommate's hypothesis is that maybe like surgery might be really soon, and I know for certain kinds of surgery they won't even like operate on you if you have like certain like cuts in places, or like if you just got them like the other day or something, they won't operate on you. So I don't know if that was the case or something, but I I would go as far to say I am of the opinion that yes, it wasn't his full career ending, thank God. But this match didn't feel like the kind of match that would end one of the best wrestlers' full-time careers. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like at the
I'm
end of
also
it,
legitimately surprised that this did not have a gimmick attached to it. Um,
yeah, seriously.
and I don't have a problem with that because I do think it says something about Danielson's reign, how good all of his regular matches are. Like Danielson is
Yeah.
one of the people that absolutely does not need gimmicks to have an excellent match. But for like a finale thing, I think that you want one of two things, which is either something bombastic and a little over the top, uh, whether that be with a gimmick that's crazy or what happens after this match, um, or you want something that's like a really classic sort of Sting style farewell, right? And this
Yeah.
match is played like a farewell match until the end, at which point it flips, and I think that doesn't work as well as they want it to, just because we already know Mox is going to do something bad at the end. Like, we know that
Yeah.
something is going to happen after this match, regardless uh, of who wins. We don't need to play up this sort of like respect angle because we know they're past that, right?
It doesn't
Like,
exist. Yeah.
Danielson's head's been in a bag. It's not,
Yeah.
that is not on the table anymore. And I think it would have made sense for this to be something like either, look, I'm a big fan of cage matches. I would say you could do
I
them
can
for every pay per
tell.
view and it'd be fine. But I would take a street fight
Yeah, just something no holds
or no holds
barred.
barred or even like 2 out of 3 falls or something crazy like that. Um,
Yeah.
I think this could have used something like Iron Man. Crazily enough, I think could have been a good one. Uh,
Honestly, yeah, honestly.
so because
But
that's a classic
I
like Danielson thing.
totally.
Which like yeah, I think that this could have used another level of amping. I don't know if like being more violent would be the reason, the answer to that over anything else, but I do think this could have used a gimmick attachment or something to like give it some more gravitas than it already had. Uh,
Yeah.
that
Because I
said,
just like,
still very good match.
yeah, it's definitely not a bad match at all. By no means was it a bad match. But like at the end of it, like it's I this might be mean to think that is it's funny, but like Excalibur's like crying, like actually like really crying at the end of the match about how this is the end of Danielson's full-time career, and I'm just like, it just doesn't feel like it. It just doesn't feel. I like calm down. It's not that bad. I don't know because I really I don't know. There needed to be something more special, and I think the biggest problem, the biggest problem that represents all of the problems is I don't and kind of is the theme of the pay per view again is that I just don't really think the ending of the match was like just the finish just was really that's gonna be it. You just gonna okay. I don't know. It just felt very anticlimactic. Um, like again, I like that's gonna be the thing. Just a chokehold is gonna be the thing that puts Danielson out, and not just like out for
A
thematically
while.
for right now. Right, it's out for good.
Like
Right, because
honestly, I think
we don't
the
know
the
if he's
best
coming
way
back.
to have ended this match would have been a knockout on Danielson in a
Yeah,
more
just a
striky
straight up
way.
knockout.
Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
for sure.
that would have been the scenario to end this match was like a even if there's not a gimmick, for Danielson to just not refuse to stop.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think like the chokehold kind of gets there, but I really think it should have been something a little bit more impactful.
yeah. I
Um,
I agree.
that said, still very good match. These two put on a great show, and I'm curious about your feelings about the ending here because I almost wonder if it's superfluous at this point.
Yeah, I I was talking about it. I was talking about it with Sid earlier, and I was like, the bag really would have meant a lot more if they didn't do it
Yeah,
like it
like
feels like yesterday. Like this would be the
that's
time to pull the
the
bag out, and
problem.
then because we've been desensitized to it, right? Like that's like the classic thing is you see something terrible enough times to where you don't even consider it to be
Or honestly, what
like
I would have been a fan
gruesome
of
anymore.
if they want to do the Yutas joining the Dark Gang thing, a concerto, like steal the Christian move and
Yeah, yeah.
follow it with the head in the
They
chair, and
kind of
then
did that.
they like leaned into almost that, but yeah, I don't know. It's the bag thing. I think just isn't super impactful for me
Yeah.
because it's like an incredibly dangerous thing to do, and we all know that. But we know that there's a lot of safety mechanisms in place for that in this kind of scenario. Um, and they've already done it. Like I think this works one time per
Yeah,
wrestler,
yeah, yeah.
and they've done it twice now. So
Yeah.
it's a little much. I think especially with like Darby crying in the corner,
It's
it's really
that
it
Darby
it
crying in the
feels like a
corner,
lot.
Darby crying in the corner, Excalibur crying on commentary, and then like the rest like the good guys of the locker room taking like 5 actual minutes to finally make it to the ring to the point where JR is like, "Where the hell were you guys?" I'm just
Yeah,
like,
like I honestly think
yeah,
this
where the hell
maybe
were
this would have been better
they?"
suited if everyone except for Moxley was like keeping everyone else out of the ring while Moxley did all this.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
Like
know.
I
And my other big problem is that I think this may be at least right now because I'm sure they'll win me back. Like this is not me. I'm not. Oh, I'm never watching AEW ever again. Oh, this was crap. And I'm like, no, I know they're gonna. It's still good and it's gonna be good. But right now, it just feels like they chose the least interesting thing to do with Yuta because like it just went back and
I do
forth like
agree.
basically
Yeah.
immediately. I don't know. I wasn't surprised. I was like, really? I wasn't surprised as in like, oh my god, he's back. I was surprised as in like, what the? Do we have like a? Is one of like the modern like Star Wars writers on this like booking? Like what is
Well, I
going
also
on?
think
This is
so. I think there was a missed thing on commentary where commentary says that Darby is yelling "stop." What I think was actually happening during part of that is
yeah,
Yuta
yeah,
was telling Danielson to stop resisting.
yeah. To stop
Um,
struggling. Yeah,
and I think that's much more interesting, but it seems like commentary didn't pick up on that in the moment. It was like a little confused by it, which maybe is an indication that it's too complicated
yeah, yeah.
to work in this scenario. But like, if that's the angle they're going, I kind of see it. Like, but at the same time, like Yuta is, I think, one of my favorite up and comer AEW wrestlers.
Me
I've been a
too.
big fan
Yeah.
of him ever since he showed up. Because I think he just wrestles in a very good way, in a very fun style. And I think this is a weird angle to take after he sort of struck out on his own, and now he's back to being the underling. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if this is the most interesting thing they could have done with him. I also don't know if it's gonna turn out good for Yuta in the long run.
Now also think about it too. If they still stick with him being like a goody two shoes at heart, it's too late. Like you missed the boat on that. You already did the worst thing you could have done. I don't know. It like what do you mean you're gonna go back on that now? You kind of can't.
Yeah,
So it does
Because
just feel
what
like
I was sort of hoping would be the angle here is that if Danielson occasionally came back in a mentor capacity, right? Like sort of
yeah,
the equivalent of Yuta's Sting, I think that would have been very cool
totally, dude.
as an
I would
option.
love that.
Um, and that's still on the table. I think like, that is still a potential thing they could do, but it's going to have this weird undertone now. Uh,
Yeah,
it just feels like wrestling is maybe not the place where they can address that in a more interesting way. So yeah, I really wonder where this story's gonna go. I do think this is a fun match overall and a really good pay per view, uh, but where they go from here, I think is going to be very interesting
yeah.
and very
It's
telling.
yeah. Like I said, I'm not. I'm no baby. God damn it, I'm a man. I haven't been scared away by one thing I didn't like. And they always manage to win me back. Um, but in order to win me back, you must have messed up first to get in that situation. And I think they kind of messed up, to be honest. But
Yeah,
yeah, the show definitely overall was good.
I gotta
Uh,
ask you, Brett, what was your match of the night?
Match of the night.
To me, there's two
I
big front
yeah,
runners,
it's
and I'm wondering which one you're gonna pick.
yeah, it's for me. It's not. It's kind of without question. It's the three way with
Yeah,
Konosuke,
I'd agree
Ricochet,
with
and Osprey.
Hologram and
It's
Mortos, very very close second. Uh,
yeah,
but that three way match was incredible. Uh,
yeah. That's an all timer.
I cannot wait to see what they'll do next.
Yeah.
All right, overall, was this a wrestle dream, Brett?
I think this is a wrestle dream in that the way that most dreams do, some of it doesn't make any sense, but you wake up the next morning and you just got to keep on going with life. So in that way, this truly was a wrestle dream.
Perfect. I think it's a good note to end on. And we'll see you for the next AEW pay per view. Uh,
Yup.
got a lot of fun things in the future, I think.
Sooner than we may think, probably. I don't know. I forget when the next one is, but it's probably soon.
Adam Cole, baby.
Adam Cole, baby.